Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply, and this video is to bring you a closer look at the Pemko R.5FA is what this is. Whoops. This is a ramp, 1/2 inch in a mill aluminum finish. I'm going to cut the stretch wrap off of this so we take a look at the actual article. So ramps are very typical pieces of equipment, of course, to use, most certainly when you have a need to be compliant with handicap accessibility guidelines, which conspire to mean exactly the dimensional properties of this ramp, and we'll get to that later in this video. This is an R.5, a ramp 1/2 inch. Is what this is. This is in the mill aluminum finish. We'll talk about the different finishes in a moment. Okay, slopes down to practically 0 here at the lip, up to 1/2 inch back here. That's going to be, of course, dictated by code when you have a 6-inch width. Now you're saying that that's a little bit greater than 6. That's because the threshold is really going to come underneath here. It's going to overlap the other threshold a bit to the point where it will be compliant with that requirement. Okay. This is just, of course, a 12-inch sample piece for purposes of this video. Listed in the website in lots of different lengths. 2 foot to 8 foot. You can order longer lengths as well. We don't list all of the possible lengths, and the reason is because you can order any length that you want. Lengths that are currently longer than 7 foot have to be shipped with special consideration regarding the cost because of the length. So be mindful, if you're shipping longer pieces, freight will become a noticeable part of the concept. If you are ordering, 12, 14-foot pieces, the freight's not going to seem an issue. If you need one piece that's 8 foot in length, yeah, it's going to be noticeable. That's just the way it is. So there is information down below this video stating that this is part of a modular ramp system. And when we look at the product brochure, we'll talk about it. Mill aluminum finish, flush application. Not really sure what they mean flush, except that this would very elegantly allow you to transition to a 1/2 inch offset and do so in a handicap compliant way. A very common application to use this in when you want to transition. The overall is 6 1/8, the height is 1/2 inch. Assemblies to accommodate, you can accommodate from 1/2 inch all the way up to 2 1/4 inch floor offsets, meeting the 1 to 12. The rise over the run is 1 to 12, 1 inch to 12 inch, therefore 1/2 to 6. Requirements of the Americans with Disabilities Act. Even higher offsets can be accommodated by using risers. At that point, depending on the height, you really get out to some pretty big ramps. It's not unusual to do a 30-inch ramp when you have the type of height that's going to require that. 30 divided by 1/2, 30 divided by, you're going to be talking for a 2-inch rise, you're going to be talking about quite, a 24-inch ramp. Now, in the product brochure, which we're going to talk about, we're going to go over the accessories as well, which would include mitered returns. You're not really, you can see that if you install this threshold, you've got an opening here. Well, if this was indeed a 2-inch rise and you had a 24-inch threshold, you're going to have almost 2 inches at one end that are open. So these mitered returns can be added as well to close that off and do so in such a way that would be not only code compliant, but also aesthetically pleasing. Now, if you're going in between 2 slabs of concrete and you're just building a walkway, it won't matter. Your ends will be closed off, but you might need to consider mitered returns. Not that you couldn't manufacture your own, I suppose, somehow, because the mitered returns are a tremendous amount of labor to manufacture them, which makes them not inexpensive. But be mindful, you'll probably want a solution for that one way or the other. Screws would be included with these, and they say stainless steel screws. And the fact that they're marginally magnetic tells me that that is indeed the case. Okay. If you have need for a custom length, by all means let us know by ordering the next longest piece or pieces and simply indicate in the comment field the net length that you'd like for us to cut the material back to. The reasoning is it will save you cutting this piece, and you're going to get a good factory edge on it. You might not need 36 inch. You might need 35 1/4, whatever the case might be. Or if you're doing a 12 inch or an 18 inch or a 24, 30 inch ramp, you might not want to cut all those pieces. Plus, what's the size of the miter box blade to cleanly cut 6 inch? Okay, it's going to be a large blade. So be mindful of that. Let's continue on with the balance of the extended description information. Then we're going to get to the product brochure along with a reference to the handicap code. Before we go further, the mitered returns do not provide a handicap solution from the sides. They're just aesthetic only, so be mindful of that. Stainless steel screws we just covered. Pemko can supply, they would normally supply a modular system like this in different pieces. So if you were doing a 12-inch ramp, you're going to get another piece that this will obviously just rest on top of, and you'll be mechanically fastening them down individually. We could also have the factory simply weld all of this together, and that would be no trouble or problem at all. For them to do it, additional charge naturally. You might want to look into that. You may not. Again, mitered returns are not handicap compliant. You can do a Pemcoat on this, which would be a heavy, abrasive, anti-slip surface applied to the material. The flutes that are here definitely serve to keep it from being, it makes it slip resistant to a certain extent. I have personally walked over smooth top aluminum thresholds, and if it's raining out, you can feel your foot slip. These flutes do serve to reduce that. However, imagine we're going up 24 inch, and now we've got the wheelchair completely on. The wheels are making 100% contact. You very likely are going to want to consider that Pemcoat, that PK option for the anti-slip. In fact, while large ramps are not a common item to sell, the majority of times we do sell them when they're larger ramps, bigger than 12 inch, with a Pemcoat option brought into play. These are UL 10B listed, and they're BHMA certified as a handicap access rated product. Now let's move on and take a look at the product brochure. Okay, in our product brochure that we have, and it's on currently over on the left hand side of the page, you're going to be able to view, and admittedly it's a bit confusing, or at least it is to me, but everything that we need is really here. So we're talking about, of course, only the R.5 FA or FAK, and that AK is going to be that Pemcoat that we talked about earlier. It will give you that heavy abrasive non-slip coating. Okay, mentioned here, highly recommended for all threshold assemblies, especially exterior conditions where moisture is present. This variant will give you the MR, the miter returns. Okay, and the miter returns is the last page on the document, and do show you what they look like. This is a plan view, as if you're looking down. This would be a right side view. This is your ramp, and this is what the miter return is going to look like. But if you're looking at it standing on top of the ramp and looking down, it will look like this. This, of course, would be a cross section. Okay, so all three views are here. The reason for the different miter returns is because you have the potential for different requirements in terms of the length of them. So if you're dealing with a 12 inch, your miter returns will look like this. You get out to 18 inch, they're going to look more like this. They're going to look like that, etc. Okay. And that miter return document is there, added to the end of that this document that we're looking at. So what we see here now are the different combinations of pieces that will meet your offset requirement. Okay, from 1/2 inch all the way down to 2 1/4. The reason it stops at 2 1/4 is because that's the last piece they have. How can they achieve 1/4 inch increments? And that's because they have these modular pieces. Okay, so basically, if you're buying an R.5, you are buying a ramp 3. You could order a ramp 3A and get an R.5. It's the same thing. If you were doing that R.75, they just don't list the individual components, but these two components here would be your ramp 3 and your ramp 4, just nestled together. Okay? That's how that's going to work. So all of these pieces are the individual piece parts. Now, if you get into needing to mitigate over a surface, as they're shown here, you're going to get into these two pieces. And they all just, as you can tell, just rest on top of each other. They do not manufacture this material in a D or a dark bronze finish. So it'd be aluminum or the Pemko that would be available. Assemblies to accommodate 1/2 to 2 1/4 inch offsets, meeting that 1 to 12 slope. Requirement of ADA became federal law in 1991. MR denotes the pair of mitered returns. You can get them for up to your 2 1/4 inch. Stainless steel screws. Expansion shields are available at an additional cost. I would fully recommend that you purchase them from us at the time you're ordering them, which because very likely you're going to not use the fasteners that come with. So the combination of stainless steel machine screws with a lead expansion anchor is going to give you an outrageously secure way to get that threshold very, very well secured down to the concrete floor sill. Custom fabrication can be done. Net length, so be mindful. Some customers will say, hey, if I really need 36 1/4, is it okay if I order a 36 inch? Well, the answer is no, because the manufacturer's catalog states, hey, we're going to be plus or minus a small amount, or plus 1/8 of an inch and minus 0. Because the client will say, yeah, the last time I ordered them, they all came 36 1/4. Can I count on that? The answer is no. They should not have shipped it to you at 36 1/4. It should have been 36 plus 1/8 minus 0. So be mindful that you're ordering the net length. If you need a net length greater than the size that's indicated, do order the next longest piece or pieces and then include that information in the comment field. So the rest of the product brochure, this is a great overview, simply shows you these component parts and how they're all used. You do have some other ramp assemblies here. You would certainly want to brace that underneath. Okay. Then also your modular ramps, they have these risers. You can, of course, incorporate risers into the mix, which will permit you to, obviously, if you stack these on top of each other, you could you could really build a ramp that would be 10 foot wide, or 10 foot wide. So be mindful that you can do that should that be the case. Mitered returns, and then not included in that product catalog are additional barrier-free concepts. Now let's take a look at the ADA compliance document itself, the A117 document. Now, in the extended description of the item, we have a link here, by the time you're seeing this video, this is going to be a link to the A117 document. Okay, this is the code that was passed in 1991. It felt it was a total shift. I don't recall the day of the week that it was passed, but on a Monday everyone ordered knobs. It was passed. It became law that night. On Tuesday everyone ordered levers. Everybody was concerned about the height of the threshold, where quarter inch was the maximum. That has evolved since then. And let's take a look at it. So in this document, you can just do a Control F on your keyboard, or Mac key, whatever it is, F. You can type in threshold. You're going to find all of the instances where the word threshold comes into play. 404.2.4 of the code tells us, if provided, thresholds at doorways shall be a 1/2 inch maximum in height. With exceptions, but generally that's the bottom line. It used to be a 1/4 inch. People say, I need a handicap threshold. Okay, fine, a 1/2 inch. No, it's got to be 1/4 inch. Well, that's how it was. It's evolved. 1/2 inch maximum in height. Raised thresholds and changes in levels at doorways shall comply with Section 302 and 303. Well, that's important because Section that reference to 302 and 303 is where the rubber meets the road. So 302, you can just Control F 302 and get to floor surfaces. And this is what they're talking about. Okay? You'll notice that thresholds have a beveled edge on them, and provided that you do not exceed the slope, the rise over the run, that's where the 1/2 inch is compliant, because you are not trying to increase your height by more than the prescribed rise. And that's why to say that a 1/4 inch is accurate because of 302, changes in level of a 1/4 inch shall be maximum in height permitted to be vertical. But to go to a 1/2 inch, you do need to be compliant with the bevel, the relationship in bevel. Okay, so the 1/4 inch is accurate, but 1/2 inch is accurate when you are complying with this. And if you take a study of thresholds, anyone that's called out as handicap compliant, sure enough, as sure as anything else, it will, of course, comply with this. Okay, great references here. That entire document will allow you to review all aspects of accessible code. Obviously, this is going to apply to commercial restroom applications as well. If you just were to search for grab bar, you're going to find, an outrageous quantity of matches for that. And sure enough, you're going to get to where you can find, okay, where do I put my grab bar? Well, it's in the code, which is law. It's actually federal law, and therefore code, right? So there's your answer. It's all in this document, a great reference document. Let's wrap up this video. Now, finally, we've talked about all the different aspects of this ramp threshold and all of its sister products and how it comes into play. By all means, feel free to click the link below this video to the manufacturer's page, where you can pull up not only all of the Pemko products that we sell, but also a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog. The name Pemko is synonymous with commercial and residential weather stripping applications and solutions. They have the broadest range available from a single manufacturer compared to any of their competition. Very, very good quality individuals there, very eager and willing to help solve problems, etc., etc. And I would encourage you to consider Pemko as a source for your weather stripping solutions. That link to the manufacturer's page will show you their product catalog, all the Pemko products we sell, as well as a link to the manufacturer's website. Any questions on the R.5 FA or any other Pemko product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you very much.